Okay, there we go. Okay, here we go. We are live. We just go live on all platforms. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here is the Diaspora Guide. This is something, again, so many people have been talking about Africa. What's happening in Africa right now, guys, is really, 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 really powerful, extremely powerful when you see the landscape that we're living in, right? So this is it, right? I run an Airbnb, and we're going to get into all of the specifics on how a lot of you guys can do those same things, okay? So again, comment below if you have any questions or anything. Please let me know in real time so I can be able to help you guys. So let's go. The Diaspora Guide to Investing in Kenyan Real Estate in 2026. I believe there's never been a greater time right now, guys. It's truly amazing as I think about going back home. How many of you guys have had that dream of going back home, either to retire or to be able to earn an income? Imagine receiving $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month because you have an Airbnb back home, or you've purchased a property and you have tenants staying in your properties. Imagine what that's like, right? So that's what this is about. Again, from all the people on YouTube, all the people on LinkedIn, this is information people have been asking. So we're here to give it to you. What is the guide? How do you do exactly this? So the question that we ask people is, what's your plan B? What happens if you lose your job? What happens if you can't work anymore? If that income that you're used to receiving, let's say a lot of you guys are diaspora here in Australia. What about if you can't get that anymore? Something happens. What are you actually building back home? So many people are sending money back to Africa, sending money back to Kenya. But what is it building? What about if you can use that money to build real assets? That's the real key, right? Imagine that. Again, the question is, what is your plan B? What happens if things are not working out? What are you going to fall back on? And that's what investing is really for, guys. Investing is really the long-term game. It's truly the long-term game. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you have any questions as we go through. Okay. So let me introduce you guys to my mother. This is my mom. She's 60 years old. She purchased an off-plan investment in Kilimani, which is, you would say, like, if we're here in Australia, there's people in America, let's say it's close to the CBD in Nairobi, right? I want you guys to think of Africa, like, let's say we're here in Australia, in America. Think back 20, 30 years ago here in Australia or in America, how much property was. It was cheap back then, right? The people who bought property all those years ago, imagine how much they're benefiting now. So that's how I want you guys to think of Africa, right? In these stages that it's at now, how much opportunity there is for this. So she purchased an off-plan property in Kilimani for 53,000 USD. So in Australian dollars, that would be about, let's say that could come out to be about 70,000 Australian dollars, close to 80,000 Australian dollars, right? So she bought it when it was off plan. As you can see on the screen, she bought it at off plan. So she bought it at 53,000 US dollars when they were in the building stages of it. Again, she's 60 years old. My mum has always had the dream of going back to retire in Kenya. She's worked as a flight attendant. She's worked in disability here in Australia, earning a good income. And she's always thought, okay, I'm earning good income here. How can I actually invest this money? How can I invest this money? How can I put it into something tangible? But again, the problem Africans face, especially here in diaspora, is who do I trust? I need a team on ground to be able to help me do that. Well, she was able to organize that, and she bought again this purchased property off plan for 53,000 USD. So, as you can see here, the official valuation. So she went and said, so basically what's happened, she bought it 6 years ago. We're in 2006, she bought it in 2020, right? So she bought it 6 years ago. And so she bought it when it was off plan. So now in 2023, she got a official valuation. When it was done, the apartment was furnished. So for those of you guys who haven't seen, we've put this out on YouTube. You'll be able to see through. Quite a beautiful place. She furnished it. She spent quite a decent amount on furnishing the place because that's quality in Kilimani, Marcus Garvey Road. So in 2023, they got an evaluation of the place that was now worth 10 million Kenya shillings, which is around 66,000 USD. So remember, like I said earlier, she purchased it off plan when it was in construction at 53,000 US dollars, right? And I'll explain to you the payment options, the way she did it, but basically did it then. In 3 years later, it went to, now it was in US dollars, 66. So she bought it for 8 million Kenya shillings. And now in 2023, and we're in 2026, so it could have even gone up. We've Googled the listings in that area. But let's say her official valuation when she paid someone to say, okay, what's the value of this property now? $13,000 went up, 25% appreciation in 3 years. So what does mom do? So mom runs it now on Airbnb. This is her listing here, as you can see. She runs it on Airbnb now, and that's quite powerful because now Airbnb, and I'll actually explain to you what's happening in the area she's in Kilimani. There's quite a lot of apartments they're building, actually too many apartments they're building. So there's quite a lot of oversupply. So for mom, she hasn't been receiving as much Airbnb bookings. And that's why, as I said, I'm into the Airbnb game in Nairobi. We have a place in Lavington, which is a very good area, but Kilimani, maybe it's becoming saturated, but she isn't getting as many Airbnb bookings, which has to come with that. If you run an Airbnb, let's say you own a property, let's say you're working here in Australia, you're working in America, you're working elsewhere around the world, and you have an apartment, you did it off plan. Now it's developed. It's a beautiful apartment. Now you have, you want to rent it out. You want to earn income from it, right? So she has it up on Airbnb. It's here and there. It's up and down. It's a bit slow. Her other option is to have a full-time tenant. So I said to mom, I said, mom, if you were to have a full-time tenant in your Airbnb, it's a 2-bedroom one, really, really well furnished. Again, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, I'll show it to you on YouTube. You'll be able to see after this, but extremely well furnished place. So I said, how much would you put it for rent? She said 160,000, which is about $1,000 US. So that's $1,000 US a month. You would have someone rent out long-term. Let's say you have a family, and which we're going to get into why Nairobi is so powerful is because people are moving you in. So she could have a long-term tenant, let's say pay $1,000 USD per month. Now, as you can see, again, just if she did that, if she rented her apartment out for $1,000 US a month, right? That's $12,800 in a year, right? $1,000 a month, that's $12,800 in a year. Divided by 53,000, which is how much she purchased it for. So you bought it for 53,000 USD, you rent it out, minimum you rent it out. Let's say you furnish it, you do amazing, everything, you rent it out for $1,000 a month for 2-bedroom. Think about that, guys. Think about in Sydney or in America or wherever, which big city in a great location like Kilimani, for example, could you rent out a place for a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,000 US dollars? That's 1,500 Australian dollars a month. That, for me, that I would pay that easily, especially if it's a beautiful place. I'm earning a good income. $1,000 USD is nothing, right? But in Kenya, she's bought it for $53,000 USD, 12,000. She can put 12,000, so $1,000 a month. That's 24% yield on cost. And remember, she bought it off plan. Of course, when you do off plan, it's of course now where you get that capital appreciation. So it's quite valuable. So what she did was she got a mortgage. So some people, I would prefer to pay it outright. Right. And again, I'm going to go into my story and how I'm here, how I'm talking to you guys. Again, the people from YouTube, all the people who've come and spoke, I'll show you how I get here. But this starts from within my family, within my mom. So her place, Yumbani, the mortgage that she got is $1,000 a month. So she put 20% down of that $53,000. And then she went and got a Kenyan, well, she has a Kenyan bank. She got a mortgage. And so on that mortgage, she's paying 150,000 Kenya shillings a month, which comes around $1,000 a month. So let's say she has now a tenant staying in there, paying $1,000 a month, paying off her mortgage. Okay, cool. I'm not earning any cash flow from it, but I have a place back home. I'm here in Australia. If anything happens, I can always go move back home. I have my own place. Let's say I want to go retire. I have it. But while I'm here in Australia, I have someone who's paying my rent completely. And then from there, you can go and get another one, right? Imagine having 3-4 apartments paying $1,000 a month. Again, I would prefer to pay it outright. There's a lot of people, and we'll go into that. A lot of people, they pay off their properties outright. Even if it's off plan, $53,000. Okay, I do a payment plan, because now imagine if I pay that $53,000 in Kilimani, in downtown, in a beautiful location. If I pay that off, now $1,000 a month comes in. If I have a full-time tenant, cash flow. Remember, with a full-time tenant, it could be risky. The tenant could leave, whatever. Of course, you want people with long-term. The other option that she could have is Airbnb. She could do, which she's doing now, but then it depends, because sometimes Airbnb can be slow. But let's say if it's in a prime location and you're doing Airbnb, now you're not just capped to earn $1,000 a month. What do I mean by that? You could put the place for 80. This place she puts up, I believe on Airbnb, she puts it for 80 USD, 90 USD per night, which is for a 2-bedroom apartment, which is a deal, right? Good location, a place that's going to get full bookings. Imagine you, of course, if we do this, we want to do Airbnb, whether we're just renting the place, because that's what I'll go into. What I do right now, I haven't even purchased a property my damn self. I'm just renting a place and then running Airbnb. So we'll go into that. But let's say you've paid off a place, $53,000, or you're paying a mortgage, either one. Let's say you've paid it off, right? You furnish the place, you spend extra money furnishing it, you make it good. You have a team on the ground to be able to, of course, help you run things. Let's say you run that on Airbnb. You're doing $80 a night. Let's say if you can get it nearly to full bookings, you could earn up to, let's say, even actually do the maths. I'll do the maths on my phone. So let's say we do $80 a night. Let's say $80 a night times, let's say we want to book that for the full month. Let's say on a good month, that's about $2,400 a month. Cash flow coming in. $2,400. Again, that's if it's booked out for 30 days at $80 a night. You can maybe give them a little discount, but still. So if she's paying mortgage, $1,000 a month. She gets a full month of bookings, which would be good. Now that's two. So now she gets $1,400 extra cash in hand. So think about where Nairobi is going. So again, there's limitless possibilities. She can either have a tenant in there, that's fine. She can have a tenant in there, or she runs an Airbnb, runs it as a business and has cash flow coming in, or appreciation continues. Maybe some of you guys you're living in diaspora elsewhere. You just want to come back home every now and then. At least you have your place. You have your place locked in. Maybe you don't need cash flow from it, but this is just the possibilities that can happen. Right. I can see sometimes it's lagging a little bit because we're live on so many platforms. So guys, in the comments, let me know if you guys can fully hear me and everything. Okay. Okay. So the goal and the objective for mum is, how can I have a long-term cash flow? What's your goals? What's your objectives? What are you trying to achieve? So there, mummy is beautiful, looking as beautiful as ever. So there you go. So what stops people from investing back home? I get it. As I said, I am part of the diaspora. My mom is, some of our clients. She's the same as them. She always wanted to invest back home. Mom's always had the dream, but where do I even start? Who can I trust? There's so many scams out there. There's so many people saying, yes, send me this. It's just, who can I trust, man? This is, mom, I'm talking about 53,000 USD, a down deposit, 20, 30, I believe she paid 40 grand. But that's AUD, so it's a bit less in USD. So the thing is like, who do you trust? That's the issue so many people have. Maybe you don't even want to purchase a place. Maybe you just want to start an Airbnb business. You want to rent out apartment. You get a lease agreement. You're renting it out, and then you want to be able to earn some cash on top of that. But how do you go about that process? You're here in Australia. You're working here. You have your running a business like me. Who can I go trust back home? And then there's some people who just said, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. But like I will show you guys, there's never been a better time. And in this webinar, I'll show you exactly what do you need? What are the documents you need? What is everything that you need so that you can go and do this now? Okay. Okay, so who am I? And we'll go into that and how I got here. This is me. Okay, so I was born in Kenya. I was born in Kenya at the age, so yeah, I was born in Kenya. Mom's from Kenya, as you can see there. Dad's from Rwanda. Mom was a flight attendant for KQ, and then she met my dad. My dad, again from Rwanda, he had fled the war. He came from a very wealthy family back in Rwanda, but then he had to flee from the war. So he met my mom on the plane, and they fell in love. And then as mom was working for KQ, they thought about, okay, let's move somewhere to give our children a better opportunity. So that's when we moved to Australia. So I came here when I was about 3 years old. My brother was born here. My younger brother, my younger brother was born here. My older brother was born in Kenya. We started our podcast. I've gone through professional, being a football player and entrepreneur, running my business. And then with my father, I also started a campaign for us to take back our African names. So I removed my colonial name from my first name, and I just took my Rwandese, which is Sujira Rubasha. So I just took my African name. And that's also the movement we have and that's why this is so powerful, because not only is it, yes, can we take back our names, but how can we go invest back in our country? Again, I'll go into this presentation. I see when I was in Kilimani in an Airbnb, I saw so many Chinese, they're coming, they're building. If the Chinese, and they do that everywhere. Here in Australia, the people who own all these properties are the Chinese. These guys, they're smart. They do it everywhere. They come to Australia. They came here back 15 years ago here in Australia. They bought property. So now you see how much properties are here it's ridiculous, right? But they did it early. So I thought, okay, how can we also invest back home? How can we encourage people to invest back in the motherland? Mom, again, that's bringing the economy. So yes, we're going to take back our names, but how can we move with economics, move with power? So this is my journey in Kenya. A few years ago, I was going to Kenya. Actually, I was playing football. I was going for the Harambee Stars. And then I met this beautiful girl. And so this is my fiance, Anyango, which is a Luya, you can see from her name, right? So I met her on a boda. I was on a boda, and then I saw her. I told the boda driver to turn around. I walked up to her, put on a little bit of my nice accent, and she got her number. And then from there, now we have an Airbnb. We just closed on our second apartment. And as I said, right now, and I engaged with her last year, we rent an Airbnb in Lavington. Again, I'll show you guys later a little bit, but basically we've started our Airbnb business. So we have our Airbnb business. I have mom who has her property in Kilimani. I have aunties also who have purchased. So it's actually in the family to be able to build this and grow. So we saw the opportunity. This is our Airbnb in Nairobi. So again, I have people that I can trust, right? So this is what it looks like. You guys can just see. But basically, I had someone I can trust. I have my fiance there. So we said, okay, what does it take for us to rent, to do this? So basically, we found a place in Lavington, which is a great area in Nairobi. And again, guys, this is not just for people who are from Kenya. There's a lot of investors also here. We have people in the business world, venture capital, other investors who are maybe even African or non-African, but imagine still owning a place and getting cash flow from that. Imagine diversifying your portfolio. You're here, you're from Uganda, you're from South Africa, but you have a place in Kenya. You have an apartment in Nairobi. You have 3, 4, 5 apartments bringing you some cash flow. So basically, we found this apartment in Lavington which is a nice area in Nairobi, for $500 a month. $500 a month. So we said, okay, well, why don't we go out and get this place? So we paid bond and rent. So I paid $1,500 So that comes out to nearly 2,000 Australian dollars. So paid for the bond and the rent, right? So it was 2 months, and bond, right? Furnished it for about 4,000, I'd say USD, right? Because again, anything we do, we got to do it with quality. You see also my mom's place is class, elegance. One thing I always notice about my mom's place is everything, it's a home away from home. When I go to stay at her Airbnb, which is amazing, right? I can go to my mom and I have a place. I don't have to go to another Airbnb. I can go to my mother's place back home in Kenya. How awesome is that? And it's a beautiful place. And I can even say, hey, mom, I can pay her, right? But basically, we furnished it with quality. As you can see, this place, me and my partner, because we've been in long distance for so long, we've been staying in Airbnb. So it was a perfect business for us, because every time we'd go stay at an Airbnb, we'd analyze it. What do they do well? What do they have? Like, we would look at, okay, they don't have this, they don't have a corkscrew. Any little small thing we would notice, we would say, when we start our own Airbnb, we're going to make sure when a customer comes in, they have absolutely everything they need, right? So we furnished it. I spent it, because I'm running my business here. So I thought, okay, I don't have time to invest in the whole property. That's a bit aggressive for me right now at where I'm at. Let me just go and put my foot in it. Let me see if there's a market in here. So the money, okay, I save up 10,000 Australian dollars, let's say 10 to 12,000 Australian dollars. Okay, boom, furnished the apartment for 4,000. I sent it to her, right? Paid Airbnb and run. A lot of people, they're sending that type of money. That's not even that much, but let's say about nearly $6,000 to send to someone. Again, you send that money to someone back home, you won't even see anything. People say, yes, I'm doing this, it's gone. But of course, I have my fiance. I know we run a business. I've built that trust. I already know. We don't play those games. So boom, and now this is our apartment on Airbnb, right? So now do the maths. So we do. Sorry, I've skipped ahead a little bit, but do the maths. We're paying $500 500 a month in rent. And so now we put the place for about $60 a night. Again, the goal is to have that place fully booked out, right? So now we could be earning up to $1,500, and then that's $1,000. So we pay the rent and we get $1,000 extra. Since I started this, it's been up and down, but I haven't been paying rent. So the Airbnb bookings that have been staying in this place that we have now that's live on Airbnb have been covering the rent. Again, with Airbnb, sometimes seasons. What we also noticed is we had people coming to us, because there's people who are traveling to Nairobi, which I'm going to show you. Like, people are coming and moving, they're working. They're coming for, say, 6 months. They can pay 6 months or 12 months upfront. Let's say we charge them, okay, in this apartment, you get it for $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month. For an apartment like this in a beautiful location, $1,500 a month from someone who's coming from the US, or because that's usually the clientele we'll attract, or we'll get local people who have that budget and can come and pay. But usually we attract foreign people who are coming to Kenya. So now for them, they can pay this $1,500 a month easily. But now for us, 500 goes to rent. That's $1,000 extra in our hand, cash in hand, passive income. So now, again, we charge people sometimes 6 months in advance or 12 months in advance. And so that's the cash flow that can come through. So as I said, from where we are now, rent has been covering itself. So location is very, very important. Location. And you want to furnish it with class and elegance, and you want to have reliable people on the ground. That's very important. So that's a little bit on our Airbnb business. So why Kenya? Why now? Well, the Kenya GDP, the growth has been, we've seen a 5% annually. So it's one of the strongest economies in East Africa. It really is. In these next 10 to 20 years, again, you could not even be a Kenyan person. You could be another African or whoever. But again, this is like buying, if I'm buying a piece of real estate in New York back 30, 40 years ago. Try to go in New York and buy a nice apartment near Manhattan. To go see how much it's going to cost you. Here in Sydney, Australia, in London, but think about it 20, 30 years ago. That's where I really see. So Nairobi is really becoming such a big hub. It's a financial capital of East Africa. I'll give you a small example. I was in America when I was in New York, and I got a T-Mobile SIM card. So I was calling them because I had issues. I called them, and then the customer service person, they had a decent American accent, but I was like, they sounded Kenyan. So I was like, are you Kenyan? And she was like, yeah. And then she said, oh, our offices are in Nairobi. I'm like, wait a minute. T-Mobile here in America, they have their offices in Nairobi. Of course, it makes sense for them. Why they're going to spend those expensive wages in America? They can build their headquarters. They can have their customer service team in Nairobi. They pay less in wages compared to what they'd be paying. So they save money. But when I saw that was a big sign that, wow, if T-Mobile already now, they have operations, they have things in Kenya, their customer service. Imagine all these now big companies that are now the multinational HQ in Nairobi, which is powerful. So if big companies, what's happening? They're bringing their staff there. People are going, they're staying there. They're going to need a place to stay. So do you see how this comes into play? So if you run an Airbnb in a beautiful location, if you're doing Airbnb arbitrage like us, this is it. So things like this that are happening are very, very valuable because now demand comes. People are wanting to stay. United Nations, Nairobi hosts the only UN headquarters in the global south, right? Constant demand for quality housing. So like I said, my mom had someone stay at her place, a long term, from who was working with the UN. And so the UN also pays for their accommodation. So we go to they say, how much is your apartment? With our employee wants to stay here. Our apartment is $1,500 a month, right? $1,000 a month. UN, they could pay that easily for a nice place to look after their staff. So again, if she's paid her place outright, that's cash in hand every single month, extra income coming in. And she bought her apartment. Maybe you could buy your apartment off plan. It's been developed. It's a beautiful place. Now people from the UN, they're moving. Now you have, again, a beautiful place. You furnished it, you've spent your money in there, but now that's cash flow. If you have a mortgage, let's say you're paying, you can charge them over your mortgage. So let's say it's 1,000, however, it also depends on, what you can do on the pricing thing. But yeah, so again, usually in Africa, we encourage to see if you can pay it outright. But even if you want to do a mortgage as a diaspora, it's still good. You still can. And it's about that cash flow that comes in. So this is what's happening in Kenya. There's a lot of infrastructure and expansion. Nairobi Expressway, ongoing road expansion. The infrastructure drives property demand. And that's what's happening right now. If you guys have any questions, please ask. So I like to say, follow the Chinese. We've been doing a lot of business on my company with the Chinese. I keep speaking to them. And when I was in Kilimani last time, I told you guys, I'm telling you, I saw a Chinatown in Kilimani, and I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I was like, these guys are so smart. I put it up on YouTube. It's even out on YouTube. I can send the video to you guys. I was like, and I was staying in an Airbnb. They have a Chinatown. It looked like a Chinese restaurant in Nairobi. So if they're Chinese, they go to a place and they build early. They've been building in Kenya over this past decade. Why? Because they know, they can see where the future lies. The Chinese can see it. And that's why a lot of them, they own. Think about how much real estate they own over there. How much they own over there in our homeland. So if they're doing it, why can't we? So again, as I said, I was with my fiance and we went to Chinatown in Nairobi. So what are some of the rules? Okay, for the Kenyan passport holder, right? And you wanted to do this, so you can get, what can you own? You can get any property type anywhere in Kenya. You have freehold land with full ownership rights and agricultural land with no restrictions when you hold a Kenyan passport. Documents you need, passport ID, and you need a KRA PIN certificate. What is a KRA PIN? It's a Kenya Revenue Authority personal ID number, a tax ID number issued by the Kenya Revenue Authority, right? So you need it. You need it to buy property in Kenya, you pay for stamp duty, and register your title deed. What else? It allows you to, this is again our Airbnb, this allows you to open a Kenyan bank account, pay your rental income tax, and you can also register a business. How do you get it? You can just apply online through KRA, iTax portal. It requires your passport. Again, I'll go through this. The lawyer will be able to assist this. The lawyer is very important in this process. If you do not have a Kenyan passport, you can have an apartment and houses with no restrictions. You have a leasehold land of only 99 years. So you can have that leasehold land for only 99 years. What you can own, agricultural land does require government approval, and you cannot own freehold land outright. Okay. And everyone must have a Kenyan bank account. Very, very important. Again, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. So very important is you need a good team. Even speaking to mom, it's checking the developments, right? Again, what did I say? People, they come, there's so many scams. Look at this off-plan development, blah, blah, blah. They sell you a dream. But if you don't have anyone to go there, mom, what did we do when it was off-plan? When she was building one that she purchased for $53,000, we had go look at the developments, seeing the past projects of the developer, all the due diligence we do. So you need a good team on the ground, whether it's us, whether it's anyone else, but you need a team. You can't do anything without a team. So you just need a trusted contact on the ground, someone we can go in. Again, for example, I have my fiance, myself, I'm here and in Nairobi, my fiance is there on ground. So we have that due diligence. If it's a project, okay, what project? Let's go look at it. Who did the developers do? You need a lawyer. Very, very important. Again, what we did was, even with our aunties, they bought a property, we gave them the lawyer. Here, you need a lawyer. Lawyer is very important, because things like, for example, right? Let's say you're looking for an off plan, right, where they're constructing it. Well, you need to have things in that contract, like, let's say if bad delays happen or something, you get your money back, for example, things like that. Making sure that they get all the permits that they need when they're doing construction. If they don't get these specific type of permits, you get your money back. So you just need to cover yourself and protect yourself. Like I said, the reason why people don't invest back in Africa, because who can I trust? But if you're here in these countries and the money that we're earning in USD and AUD, it's very easy for us to go and invest. Like I said, I'm here in Australia. I'm saving money on rent here, but I have an Airbnb that I'm renting out. That we're now, so that's extra cash flow that can come in. And the more that cash flow that comes in, I'm not paying rent, then we go and get more. As I said, we just got our second apartment. So the trusted contact on ground, I wouldn't do that if I didn't have my fiance. I couldn't do it. I've always wanted to do this, but I could not do it if I didn't have my fiance. How? Right? Of course, I still do travel a lot. I had my auntie, she worked for Etihad. She has 4 properties in Kenya now, but because she's a flight attendant, she's traveling back and forth. That was the only way she was really able to do it, because she can rely on herself, right? And because she's a flight attendant, she's going there for work. So what are your financing options? You can either do a cash purchase, which I said earlier, right? Where, let's say, even if it's off plan or whatever, $80,000, $90,000. And remember, guys, $80,000, $90,000 in downtown Sydney, downtown New York, downtown Manhattan, downtown London, $90,000 for 2-bedroom apartment, $80,000 for a two-bedroom apartment, right? Let's say and remember, if it's off plan, it could be even cheaper. You get it at 70,000, 60,000, depends. There's many projects, right? But let's say you pay that cash during that, through that process. So you have stronger negotiation power with developer, and it's a faster closing process. No back improvement delays. You own it immediately, and lower long-term cost, right? So let's say it's an off-plan investment, right? Again, it's lower entry. You can spread the payments over 12 to 36 months, right? So you can put a 20% down deposit. Let's say $90,000, put 20% down, and then just do payments per quarter, right? 12 to 36 months, paid off. And like I said, let's say my mom's property that I showed you guys earlier, she purchased off plan for 53,000 USD, 53,000 USD in 2023, which is 3 years ago. The official valuation is 66,000 US dollars. So $13,000 she's already gained from there, right? And that's off plan. She's done mortgage, but imagine if she's paid that place off, and then now there's just rent that's coming in now, because it's already been developed. It's been 6 years. Now full-time tenant rent. Now her Airbnb, because it's up and down, the extra money that comes from the Airbnb is just cash. She just came from Kenya. She has her own place to stay. Extra. So she says the Airbnb money that she gets, $500, $600, all that cash she gets, she leaves it in her Kenyan bank account. She uses her money here. Goes away cheap. But when she travels back to Kenya, in her Kenyan bank account, she already has a decent amount of money, because she doesn't touch the Airbnb money. So on off-plan investments, it's a lower entry price, spread, and yeah. So again, even if you're not from Kenya, let's say you're from another place in Africa, you could still do this and benefit from exactly what I said: capital appreciation and cash flow. Once you have one, you could do 2. Imagine if you have 2 apartments bringing you $1,000 a month. If you can't work anymore, or you've been limited in that way, earning $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Imagine. Some of you, and maybe you can live off that. Can some of you live off just 2,000? Of course, the cost of things, but you get my point. Maybe you go back to Kenya, right? Maybe you have another place, you have Airbnb, you have 2 places bringing you income, right? Over the long term. Remember, it's a long-term game. So with off-plan installments, appreciation may occur before completion, right? And it's easier to enter the market, and off-plan lets you secure today's price over time, which is quite powerful. Or you could do a mortgage. What are some other ways you could pay it off? Designed for Kenyans living overseas, like my mom did. She did it 6 years ago, so she's been paid it off really quickly. She's only got 4 more years left. Again, everything that comes in now is cash in the bank for her. But she's doing a mortgage, right? So this is if you're living overseas, typical rates 12 to 15%. A loan tenure could be 5 to 20 years. Her loan was 10 years. Again, she's halfway through it. Which from a board like mum requires income verification, often 20 to 30% deposit required, and it gives you the leverage to use your cash for other stuff. There's a thing in Kenya called SACCO loans, which is a member-based lending institution. There's lower interest rates there, and it's a faster approval process. There's developer payment plans. This one, there's some developers I know that have a 0% down deposit. I know them. They just charge, like they have, maybe they don't have. So we work with different developers. So I get projects that are luxury apartments. I did a YouTube video analyzing, they're building East Africa's tallest building. I think they still have a few apartments available for, again, 70,000, 80,000, but they built, so that's the luxury. That's their high quality. That one, 20, 30% deposit always, because it's, we know some other developers are great quality, but cheaper. And those ones, you don't even require a down deposit. You just pay off an installment plan, pay off monthly. Could do for 5 years, $400 a month. You have a place in Kiambu or Thika Road, which is those are places which are not like really like in the city like this, but it's still a property that you have and you can earn rental income from, right? And they have some other places. So you have there. So you can either do from 0 down deposit to up to 20 to 30% if you do work with a developer on a payment plan, which is flexible stage payments, short term, no banks, and you just pay it off. Again, that's mum's options. So what can you do? You could do a townhouse on Masonette. This is high. You can charge higher rent for this. Rural areas, you have Kiambu, Sokimau. You can build a townhouse like this, have rents. That one's a little higher rent and more maintenance, right? There's a lot more maintenance, as you can see. Apartments, as I said, lower entry price, easier to manage remote, and popular with professionals and expats. All these people who are working in the UN and going and working for all these big countries, US, everywhere, their apartments are quite favorable. What are some of the risks with apartment? Again, rental income is good and with liquidity, but of course you have service charges, oversupply in some zones. So like I said, my mom's place right now, again, it's not all hunky-dory. She's running it on Airbnb alone. Well, the Airbnb income is not enough for her to, she pays the mortgage from her work, from her salary here, which is okay. You always, like us, when we rent out the Airbnb business, I know there's some months that I will pay rent out of pocket and I have budgeted for that. Anything else is just a bonus. So I've already budgeted. Look, of course, not every month is going to be fully booked out, which is oversupply sometimes. Maybe like I know in her area, in this area, I've been there, and in Kenya, they're just building so many apartments. There's so many. I'm like, wow, right? So I guess for us, even in that business, it's more finding the perfect clients, finding the niche clients who like luxury and class, finding those where in those communities, and boom, we have those people renting out our place, family, things like that, where they're now bringing income. I had my auntie the other day, she needed a place, she stayed at my Airbnb, charged her a good rate. That helps me pay the rent there. Again, cash flow. So that's a little bit of the risk with doing this, as there's risk with everything. You could do land, which is just kind of like buying a plot, a lower purchase price. You don't have to manage any tenants, the capital appreciation. If you do it in a place that has great infrastructure, like, they're building things around it, it's going to be a place of the future. So land is more of a long-term game. It doesn't bring, of course, any immediate cash flow. The only issue with land back in Africa is, again, it's a trust thing. There's so many scams out there that someone says you can have this land, but there's no title. That one's very risky. You'd have to really, again, with a lawyer, everyone you work with a lawyer to do the due diligence on that to make sure that fits out. But you could do land and build on the land later. Commercial property is also an option for the people, this is more for the businesses, maybe even private equity, venture capital, which big businesses who have big money, who can say, okay, or even this is something that you can do as you earn more income later down the line, is get commercial property, right? Of course, it requires more capital, but it's a high rental yield possible, very high rent there. This is in Nairobi. They're also actually developers that we know, that building that you can see with that very interesting infrastructure, longer lease agreements, right? And you have corporate tenants. Like I said, those big companies I see in Kenya, PwC, all the companies here that are moving back there, they're going to have to stay they're going to have to work in buildings. So commercial property is also a place that you can get. It's a high risk in economic slowdown. So we could see with COVID, people work from home, right? So imagine who's going to the office anymore. So, or businesses are shutting down, something happens, right? That's the risks that you carry there. And of course, larger capital. Again, like we said, off-plan units, lower entry price, potential appreciation before completion, and you get modern finishes and amenities. What are the risks? Off-plan units is the developer risks. Again, delays can happen. When remember, off-plan is still just a vision. It's a dream. It's still an idea in someone's mind. That's really what an off-plan is. It's a promise. And with promises, things happen. Things always happen. So market conditions can also change. So ready units, which is available apartments. So I have an auntie, she bought a unit outright. She paid around 100,000 USD. She was working as a flight attendant in Dubai. So she borrowed money from the bank there. Boom, she got ready unit apartment. So that one, when you can move in ready, immediate rental income, and it's easier to finance. So you can actually do that too. Just literally, okay, more money, of course, but you can have one. And then, like I said, now it's just running the Airbnb game, like I said. But hey, you could do one, again, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 for a ready apartment. Let's say you furnish or it's furnished nice. Okay, now you just use it for cash flow. Imagine getting cash flow from that for the next 20 to 30 to 40 years. That's how you really play it. Is more, okay, if I spend 90 grand on this or 100 grand, I'm just buying cash flow, especially if it's a ready-made unit. And then it's just building the business of having that place booked out is just the next thing that you have to focus on, which you can get. Again, high entry price. So it's less appreciation compared to early off plan. It's not as, the appreciation is not as much, but it's still pretty good. Or even sometimes when it's nearly in completion, you could buy it. That's still not a bad idea. So as you know, location is vital. It's very, very important where you get the location. Like I said, mom's location is a great location, but even in her location now, we're going through that little bit of oversaturation just into there's so many apartments, right? But it's still a perfect location, but it's close to Yaya Center, it's close to the shops, it's right in the heart of Nairobi in a very good area. So again, the capital appreciation going up, people will always go there and people always need a place to stay. So one of the things we say is get a lawyer. Which we reference, get a lawyer. The lawyer does the due diligence. Really, the lawyer is great to be able to have a team that you have. To have your lawyer, again, it protects you from what I talked about, from those scams. Okay, there's an off plan. Let's say I could present you an off plan place. I say, hey, look at this amazing project. It's awesome. Okay, well, we got to get a lawyer to go check that. Lawyer does the due diligence around everything else. Again, we can go visit the place and everything. That's fantastic, but the lawyer helps with all those, just the nitty gritty things that you need, again, just to cover you if anything goes wrong. Let's say if it's off plan, whatever, a lawyer is very important. So if you're managing from abroad, so let's say you're one of these people who said, Sujira, I love this. You've got all this information. You've got an off plan place, for example, off plan project. Let's say it's done by 2028. Done by 2028. Now you go in and furnish it. You put your money aside. You furnish that place. Now it's amazing. So now you can say, okay, I'm still living in America. I'm still living in Australia. I'm still living wherever. I'm still busy here. Yes, I go to visit Nairobi. I go to Kenya. I go to Africa when I want to. But I want to have someone managing my place. So you can either, again, that's what we do for a lot of our clients, where we manage the Airbnb in our in the same building that we have this place, and we just earn commission from the rent that we get them. So if we get them a long-term client, 6 months, 3 months, whatever client we go and get them, whether that's through Airbnb, we also use outside of Airbnb, we run our place on TikTok ads. So we noticed, because I'm young, we're marketers, we noticed when people are searching, like I see it, if I go on a place with my girl or on holiday, I usually see on TikTok, she searches for things. People search for things on TikToks. So guess what? People search for apartments on TikTok. So we ran ads on TikTok and, showing our beautiful place, and we're getting bookings from TikTok. So that's what sometimes, imagine you're working here in Australia. You don't have time for that, but now you have something like that. Run ads on TikTok, of course, you have to have your due diligence. You get bond if people come and damage the place, or Airbnb or booking.com, wherever, but you can earn cash flow now from your property. Again, if you run Airbnb well, a time where people are moving to Nairobi, let's say in 2 years time, 3 years time from now, and you did an off plan and people are moving there, you could be earning up to $3,000 a month with, let's say, just rentals. Let's say you work with a property management company. Let's say from that 3,000, they take their percentage. Like, for example, we get you $3,000 a month. We take a percentage of that because we're getting you someone to come and rent. Let's say from that $3,000, 2,400, 2,300, whatever. And then plus all the other expenses, that is cash flow coming in. And so that's how you manage it from abroad. Again, this is how you can do this for yourself. And I hope you guys have gotten the steps. Again, Airbnb strategy, which is what we're doing. You want to go to a place that's high demand location. I love places like Westlands. When I go to Nairobi myself, Westlands, for those of you guys who don't know, I don't know how to describe it. If I'm to give an example, like here in Australia or in America, like I said, New York is my favorite city, but it's kind of like downtown New York is like Westlands, beautiful place, which is high demand. People are going there. A lot of entrepreneurs. When I did my podcast, all the businesses I work with CEOs. When I was in Kenya, they were all in Westlands. All their offices were in Westlands. My Airbnbs I was staying was always in that area. So it's such a beautiful location. So that's a place, high demand location, near corporate offices, what I just said, going and working there, and fully furnished, right? So like I said, guys, these next 10 to 20 years, people are moving back to Africa. Even like I said, I gave the example of T-Mobile. Even me, as I run my business here in Australia, my team, I pay from Kenya, Pakistan. Why am I going to go pay someone here in Australia and they'll even do a useless job? And those people in Kenya, the money and the value, and I'm not paying as high wages here, but I'm still paying a decent amount for them to live. But now I get my business done. And that's so if I'm doing it, of course, I just told you T-Mobile is doing it. Of course, I'm doing it. So think about, so if that's happening, people are moving back there. People are going to go work. People are seeing the opportunity in Africa, where I'm seeing also just in my investment safe and the business people, I keep hearing them talking about Africa. So now you could run an Airbnb, whether you rent an Airbnb or you've purchased a place like we've talked about, and now you're just running it, just like my mom's doing, right? So what should you do? Again, Airbnb, this is mom's place again. Again, I told you guys, mom has class. She's furnished this place really well. I love her place, right? So Airbnb, and that's, as you can see the view of Kilimani. You can see all the apartments in that view already there. So what do you do? Airbnb versus tenant. Like I said, for my mom, I think now, I say, hey, mom, we got to bring you a full-time tenant in there because the Airbnb cash flow is not enough. It's not sustainable enough at the moment. So you'd rather just get a long-term tenant in. Yes, even long-term tenant can be risky because what about if they got to leave? But let's say you get someone who's come in, they're working for the UN, or they're coming for work and they have a 6-month contract or a 12-month contract, then you're a little bit more, you know, that's okay. That's stability. I know every single month I'm going to get $1,000. Mom, for example, that $1,000 pays off my mortgage. So I basically have a place for free. It covers my mortgage. $1,000 comes. If you purchased $53,000 in this beautiful 2-bedroom place, what a bargain. Let's say you paid it cash outright from when you got it. Maybe you paid it off in 2 years, 3 years, a year. That's just $1,000 coming in cash in hand. Cash in hand. So you can use that $1,000. That's $12,000 a year. Maybe you go to Nairobi for 3 months. You've just got cash in the bank there, or you're an outside investor, and then you're just receiving an extra $1,000 a month. Hey, I don't know about you guys, and that's 1,500 Australian dollars a month. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I would take $1,500 a month for just waking up and for owning a place, and for buying it for $53,000 when it was off plan. And if I want to sell that place, let's say in 10 years, you already know how much that's going to be. So long-term rent is stability, but also has a little bit of risk. Like I said, Airbnb is higher upside. So now if she's doing Airbnb and it's getting booked out, even half to majority of the time, instead of earning $1,000 a month, you could be earning $3,000 a month, $3,500. But let's say $3,000 a month for 30 days booked out for, let's say, $80 a night. If it's a 2-bedroom, now she's earning $3,000. So she's paying a mortgage for $1,000. That's $2,000 extra that's coming in, minus expenses. Maybe that's $1,500 extra coming in because she's running it through Airbnb and Booking.com. And there's you can use all of them, right? Or you charge some, not even through Airbnb. Maybe you get them like just, through a connection, right? Because people are always going back and staying in Nairobi. You charge them $80 a night, boom, $1,500. So now you can, for Airbnb or having this rental thing that people are doing, you can earn up to $3,000. Let's say you own that place outright, that's $3,000 cash coming in. Let's say you work with a company like us, whatever commission, even if it's $2,000 a month, cash flow coming in, hey, I don't know about you guys, but I'll take that. Okay, taxes overview, not a long one. 10% of rental income tax. So, like I give you these cash flow numbers, again, you'll take out these small expenses out of there. Of course, like even when you're purchasing, there's stamp duty, there's a few things from there that you have to take into consideration, but that all comes with lawyer and advice. But yeah, 10% rental income tax, 15% capital gains tax. So what does life look like? Again, like I gave you, for example, let's say for my mum right now, again, if she's to rent her place, so she's not doing this currently, but as I said, with my guidance in there, let's say at the moment we rent it out to a long-term client, and it depends because mom she travels, so she likes to go to Kenya, so that's why Airbnb suits for mom, because she can block out the place when she goes back, and that's what my auntie does as well. When she goes back to Kenya, she just blocks out the place so she can go stay in her place. But when she's not there, when she's in America, she lives in New Jersey. When she's in America, she has cash flow coming in from it. So that's the advantage of Airbnb. So let's say an option is she's earning just 12,000, which is $1,000 a month. Someone is paying basically the mortgage. So if after her mortgage is done, that's $12,800 that comes in while she's sleeping because she owns that place. Someone's paying rent, someone's living there. If it's Airbnb, that 12,000 can go all the way up to $18,000 a year. If it's Airbnb, because Airbnb, it's higher upside if it's maxed out. We have an Airbnb here in Australia, and our Airbnb in Australia makes like if I show you guys the tax thing that comes in, it's like, wow, you can make $18,000 a year. That's a whole salary. Imagine just through Airbnb. So those are the options there. So it's an apartment that she can retire in. Let's say she has, and of course her son's a hustler here. We're gonna have 5, 6, 10 apartments like that. Mom, she does this style. She loves doing this. This is her passion, styling places. Like you see, my mom's place is elegant. It's a piece of art, right? So mom, you run the Airbnb interior design team, right? We're gonna own 10 apartments, 20, 100 apartments. She'll have 5, 6, 7 herself. So those all apartments providing rental income. That's what it could do for you. You as a diaspora who's always had this dream, you could have that yourself. You start off with one, and as I said, guys, now it's early. Man, I'm telling you, like I said, you go to New York and go and find me a place in New York worth an apartment there, 70,000. Here in Sydney, Australia, go find me a place that's worth $70,000, $80,000. That's what's happening in Nairobi now. Because in 20, 30 years, 40 years, this is where we're going to see the uprise of Africa. Again, I really believe it starts also with, the leaders and also, yes, us taking back our names, taking back our African names, having an identity, because when you know who you are, you know how to move. Look at Dubai. Why is Dubai so advanced? Why? We should be like how it is in Dubai. And that starts here. So that's why you guys, it's like you're investing in like a Dubai now. That Kenya, I see us as the Dubai of East Africa. I really do. And people see it too. Right? So imagine now if you would have even like bought a place in Dubai back before when it wasn't as hype as much as it is now. Dubai, that's a plan that's been a project 20, 30 years down the line. It was already in play. They're already working on it. So that's what's happening in Kenya. That's what we're doing now. You see in Dubai, you could be from Saudi Arabia. You don't have to be from there, but you own land there. Again, Africa, you don't have to be from Kenya, but you have this $12,000 coming in every year on a purchase that you purchase for $50,000 or $60,000. Imagine. And you're not even from Kenya. You're from Rwanda. I had a client come to me from Rwanda. He's from Rwanda, which is also my country, which is where the connection came in. But he wants to invest in Kenya because he can see what's happening. He's right next door. Rwanda's right next door. So he could see what's happening. So this is us. Africa, Kenya is becoming the place. So now this is what you could do. So now you have all the steps that you need now to go and do this. Right? So what's the 5-step action plan? If you take, I know sometimes you can come to a webinar, people get motivated, but they don't take action. They don't take action. I see it all the time. I see people, business everywhere. They go to a place like this, they learn something, they get excited, they get inspired, but then, back to normal. Are you going to be different? There's only 1% of people in this room say, you know what? He's right. Like me, guys, we started our Airbnb business within a month because I'm an action taker. If I see something and I see demand, and and I believe in it, and I do my I's and Q's, we do it. When my fiance, boom, go find a place. I even told her, because I tried to do that in Australia, same thing, rent out a place and run it on Airbnb like we do. But in Australia, there's a lot of rules. You even have to get permission from the landlord to put on Airbnb. When my partner got the lease agreement, I said, make sure you put in that contract that we are allowed to run Airbnb. She went, changed the lease agreement, put it back. So we did all of our due diligence. So we put in the lease agreement that we are allowed to sublet it out for Airbnb. Boom. Within a month, my place now, if I send you the link here in this comment section, you will be able to go and book it in when you go to Westlands. Okay. Okay, so we've got a question here. Cleaning, replenishment, maintenance, and bill costs, when factored in, how much do they shave off that income? Figures you went through, is that after Airbnb takes their service fee? So that's a very good question. Cleaning, so for example, my fiance, she was like, now, so she'll go in and, because we're perfectionists, she'll go in and clean herself sometimes. So the apartment building, they have some, so let's say cleaning, it's not, the good thing is, remember, you're in Kenya. So it's not like here in Australia for cleaning, you're paying 20, 30, 40, $50 an hour. It's not as much. So again, to that one I can give in, for example, if we have a free coaching session, we can go through more of the numbers there, but it's not a huge amount. So of course you have to factor in, again, when I send rent and all of those things, I factor in that. So Airbnb does take a service fee. So that's why, like I said, we've had bookings that are without Airbnb. Of course, that's more cash in hand for us. So with Airbnb, it's still quite, and Airbnb, there is that protection as well. If something happens, you know, they have their card, Airbnb can also reimburse you. So that's the safety about Airbnb. But let's say if you have if you charge $80 a night, for example, that example I gave, let's say you make $3,000 in bookings. If you do Airbnb, from that 3,000 plus all those little expenses you said, maybe you'll see from 3,000, and I'm just kind of off the top of my head, from that 3,000, you could see, let's say, to be safe, let's say even to be safe, $2,000. Let's say $1,000 through Airbnb, which they don't take that much, but Airbnb, maybe small, you know, things around furnishing, let's say around, but at least let's say $2,000 cash in your hand, right? And again, that's something that we can go through like a little bit more closer. But that's a really, really good question. I just need to, okay. So does anyone have any questions before I move on? I just need to move this. It's not moving. Okay. So again, what's very important is due diligence. So really having that due diligence on the ground to be able to move with efficiency. Like, again, go in and check things. You're not just doing things just to rush. Again, it's not like, oh, time's running out. Like I said, there's never been a greater time to do this. Even with something like Airbnb, there's never been a greater time. Again, there's a risk with everything, but as long as you have your due diligence on the ground, you're able to then now move with structure, move with purpose. So it's really about getting everything that you need to be able to move efficiently. Okay. Let me just. Okay, so you want to define your goal. And then what's your budget? How much budget are you dealing with? So if you're doing Airbnb, you know, what's your budget? Let's say if I'm just renting out, like I talked about, doing the Airbnb arbitrage, which is basically just renting out an apartment, I'm paying rent. Okay, what's my budget? Okay, I have budget for furniture, for bond. Let's say, like I said, my budget, I took around like just 10,000 Australian dollars, which is in American USD, maybe about like 7,000 USD. So below 10,000, just around $10,000 a little, and that's just for extra. So up to $7,000. Now, for example, you run an Airbnb. So now I know my budget. Okay, now I can do Airbnb. Let's say for purchasing, again, is my budget 50,000, 100,000? How much have I saved up? You have to define the budget, and that's more up to you. You know what your budget is. Build a team. So these are your 5 steps. What did I say? So define goal. Actually, let's go back to the define goal. What's your goal? How much do you want? Do you want it for rent? Do you want capital appreciation? Do you want a place that you can just go and call home? Do you just want a place that, you know what, I have a place that I can just go to Nairobi every time I'm back in Kenya, I can go home. For me, guys, you don't know how happy I am. Now, as I said, I've been in long distance, so I travel back through to Kenya. I don't have to pay those I used to go, you know how much I was paying for Airbnb? I was paying a lot, which now I'm part of that now. But before I was going to Kenya, I was paying a lot in Airbnb. Now we got another apartment where now I don't have to even go, I just pay rent. So now when I go to Kenya, I can go stay there for 2-3 months. I don't have to go and pay for rent or Airbnb. I just pay my rent. Okay, that's cool. It's $500 a month. That's nothing, right? So we've got another place. So with that type of pricing, $500 a month in a great location, right? So that could also be your goal. So you got to define your goal, define the budget, build the team, which is very, very important, and then do your due diligence. And then execute, take action upon it. And then projects. So this is an example. So for example, I get projects that come to me of, again, okay, the East Africa's tallest building. Okay, Sujira, there's these apartments. So we get projects that come in, and just the project depends also on people's budget. So this is
investors get luxury properties with the highest ROI. So here are some of the properties.
So this is in Westlands. So that one there that's the tallest building that they're building. So that has apartments going for 175,000 to 70,000 USD. So those are the kind of projects that can come in. And then, so that's how you do this, right? The way you do this is, okay, where do I start? If I want to start, again, you could either do Airbnb or you're buying, and you can say, okay, what projects are available? Okay, there's this project that's available. This is the plan, this is the thing. And then that's exactly what I said. That's when you do your due diligence. So I had my fiance, these are some of the development partners we're working with. I told her, go there and check it out. Before we present it to any of our clients, it has to be, we only want the best of the best. Everything we do is the best of the best. So for example, these guys are on the luxury market of apartments. And again, from 70,000 US dollars, 60,000 to 100, these guys, well, it's all sold out now. It's all sold out, but 175,000 was the most expensive. 175,000 for a 3-bedroom penthouse apartment. It's in May 2028, Chinese developers. And these are Chinese guys that have built like global everywhere. It's their first project in Kenya. They're building, it's completion May 2028. He bought it for 170. They're going for $175,000, all sold out, 3-bedroom penthouse. But like I said, imagine buying a 3-bedroom penthouse in Manhattan, in New York, for $175,000. Imagine, and you do 20% deposit. 175,000. Try in Sydney CBD. Go to Sydney CBD and find me a 3-bedroom penthouse apartment for $175,000. I'm telling you, in this place, when it's done, how beautiful it is, the amenities. In, again, long term, 20 years, 30 years, that 175,000 will be, it will go to millions, definitely. Because why? Now, Kenya, East Africa is becoming the hub. He rents that place out, rental yield, or you get it. So this is in Westlands. So that's where you get access to projects like that, right? Which is quite awesome. So what you guys can do is you can book in a free coaching session, which is like, for example, we had an amazing question here. Also, we had some questions coming in from YouTube, but because we have so many platforms running all at the same time, it's hard to go in and read all of them. But that's where you can now book in a free coaching session. So now we're just, what are you working with? What's your goals? Even if you're just thinking about this, right? Maybe you want to do it. Of course, it doesn't have to be now. Good things take time. Or you could have been wanting to do this already, but you just haven't. How do I do it? How do I do it? So now you have the option to come in and ask questions, even if you can ask all the questions you need to be able to take it and take it to the bank with it. Or if you just need it done for you, say, listen, I'm doing my thing here in Sydney, Australia, or I'm in America, or I'm in Germany, wherever. I don't have time for this, but I want to do this. I want it now. That's where you can get in help, right? So we will guide you through this, where we literally guide you through this, right? Okay, what's your goal? What's your budget? Okay, let's go check out the project. If you want things a little bit more sooner, I go to Nairobi myself. There, boom, updates, developments, everything. So showing you projects and guide you through your property purchase and investment. And that is it. So if you have any questions, guys, feel free to let me know. Again, you can book in your session. I'll put the link in the chat. And that is really your guide to getting your investment property. Again, if you want to do Airbnb, that's very much possible for you to do, which is, again, like I said, quite a way for you to get that cash flow. So I've put the link in there where you can book in a coaching session. I usually have availabilities Sundays to Mondays. Everything else is booked out. So you can book in a session there. And again, to ask these questions, okay, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? How much are you trying to earn in cash flow every single month? And then how can we get there? And that's where you can use that session to be able to ask your questions. So we want to thank you guys. If you have any more, thank you so much for enjoying this, and we'll see you on the other side.
Recordings.